As you watch the next two segments on the collapse of the Russian Empire, keep these questions in mind.
What tensions within Russia led to the revolution of 1905?
How did the actions of the Tsar and Tsarina bring down the Russian Empire?
The Tsars of Russia created one of the largest empires the world had ever known. But perhaps because their empire was so big, they often ignored the desires of the people they ruled. What can people do when their government ignores them?
When the government ignores the people, they're forced to act in a way that can grab national attention.
People only have the choice to either revolt or leave the country.
Do peaceful protests and gatherings to try to get their point across.
Riots are a negative thing, but they do get attention.
People can always write up petitions, speak to congressmen, but honestly, nothing's as effective as physical action.
Attempting maybe to get someone in government who's doing the right thing or can speak for a large group of people who want change.
In the 1800s, the Russian Empire was ruled by a Tsar, or king. Tsars had controlled Russia for several hundred years. Tsarist Russia had a rigid social structure. A few privileged people lived lives of luxury, but the majority struggled just to get by. A third of all Russians were serfs, peasants forced to work the land for masters who controlled their lives. Life in Russia had been this way for centuries. But in the 1800s, people were growing increasingly dissatisfied. Most Tsars ruled as firm autocrats. They imposed their will on their subjects and showed little concern for people's needs. But sometimes the Tsars had to make changes. In 1861, under pressure from all sides, Tsar Alexander II freed the serfs. But the action backfired. No longer forced to work the land, many former serfs moved to the city to work in factories. Instead of finding prosperity, they found overcrowding, poverty, and disease. The Tsar's reform hadn't made the people happier. It made them more discontent. When Alexander's son and grandson succeeded to the throne, they abandoned his reforms and returned to the policy of harsh repression. The Tsars became increasingly unpopular, and opposition to the Tsarist regime continued to grow. Then in 1904, war broke out between Russia and Japan. Both nations wanted to gain control of Manchuria and Korea in East Asia. Russia believed it could easily defeat the Japanese. At the same time, the Russian government saw the war as an opportunity to rally support around the Tsar and distract Russians from their dissatisfaction with things at home. But the Russians greatly underestimated Japan's military strength. During the Russo-Japanese War, the Russians suffered defeat after defeat. In 1905, Japan destroyed the entire Russian Baltic fleet. Many people blamed the Tsar, Nicholas II, for the humiliating losses. Newspapers and revolutionary leaflets spread the news of the military disasters and fanned pent-up discontent created by years of oppression. The workers called the general strike, protesters flooded the streets, and liberals demanded a constitution. Amid the turmoil, on January 22, 1905, a young priest led a large group of workers in a peaceful march to the Winter Palace. Carrying religious icons, they planned to present a petition to the Tsar. But Nicholas II called in his troops. The Tsarist soldiers opened fire on the crowd, killing more than 100 innocent people and wounding several hundred more. This event, known as Bloody Sunday, sparked the Russian Revolution of 1905.